we live in a quick fix culture.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
everybody thinks that this can happen quickly, and I attest to the opposite. You
mhm.
know, it's a long, slow obedience in the same direction. That's the name of a book that I love, The Long, Slow Obedience in the Same Direction. So if we're following what I call the golden thread or the soul's path, it's a long, slow obedience throughout our lifetimes. And as we follow it, it becomes more clear,
Mhm.
and I believe that the energy becomes more powerful
Yes.
because we drop other things fall away, so that when we finally can exercise that deep soul connection with the world and the universe, we are clear.
Mhm.
There is no question, we are absolutely clear.
Welcome to the Intrepid Soul podcast, where we explore what it takes to build a human life that's congruent with your soul. I'm Katie Benway, a mystic, teacher, and author, here to walk with you through the wilds of the human experience as we get to know and get closer to the soul. Let's get curious, courageous, and conscious together. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Intrepid Soul podcast. I'm so thrilled that you're here with us. Today we have back Hannah Anderson. So you'll remember Hannah from the very first episode of this podcast. I got so much feedback from that first episode, and it doesn't surprise me that people love Hannah. I love Hannah. Hannah, people kept telling me how soothing your voice was and how calming and nourishing the conversation was. And so it was a no-brainer to bring Hannah back. So let me remind you a little bit about Hannah, and then we are going to get started today. Hannah Anderson is a practitioner of souls. She tends to people's souls by careful listening, discernment of energies, and shamanic healing. Hannah learned about this path as a young girl living close to nature and raised in a Quaker family that respected the light within every human being. She went on to become a teacher of bilingual and differently abled children, then an Episcopal priest for 27 years, tending to the spiritual needs of people in everyday life, in crisis and in death. Upon retirement from full time ministry in 2018, she became a certified life coach and founded Golden Thread Coaching. Hannah continues to offer life coaching and mentoring to people wanting to do soul work as they move through life transitions. At age 72, Hannah lives in Richmond, Virginia with her husband, Bob. She is currently enrolled in a 3-year shamanic practitioner program through the Foundation for Shamanic Studies to deepen her understanding of soul healing. Her own soul work requires solitude, time with people she loves, respite in nature, and most of all, time in her art studio where her soul is fed through abstract painting. Welcome back, Hannah.
Hey, thanks, Katie. It's great to be here.
We're so thrilled. So, you and I wanted to talk today about staying close to the soul during hard times. And we are people in our work, you as an Episcopalian priest and a life coach, me as a coach, as a medium, as a psychic, we've journeyed alongside humans. And usually those humans consult with us during hard times, acutely hard times, or maybe sort of mundane hard times, if there's such a thing as that. When you think about this, when you think about your own life experience, when you think about journeying with other people, how do you think about hard times and their relationship to and with the soul?
I've come to understand that these times are inevitable,
Mm,
and that the more we can accept them and lean into them as gift, we will actually begin to receive more and more of their blessings, or of their the power of transformation. It's been said that the spirit travels most quickly during the night.
mm,
And I've come to believe that when I've had my own, I would call them dark night of the soul, where for years there's just nothingness, or
yeah,
this sense of no real movement. actually there's tremendous movement, but it's at a very, very deep level, and I'm unable to perceive it or see it. And so we live in a culture that continually wants us to quantify things, Katie. Can you see it? Can you describe it? Can you monetize it? Can you do it? Can you work it? And instead, I think the invitation during times of darkness is to go inside and to really honor whatever is gestating at a very, very deep level.
Yes.
That's what I've come to expect it and
Mm.
to welcome it and lean into it and not make it go away or not force light
Mm.
if it's not a time of tremendous light.
Right. You know, just this morning, I was having a conversation with a client who is in a period like this, and we were talking about, and I was sharing this really beautiful concept that I learned about through. It's actually an oracle deck created by Kim Krans, Krans. I love her work. She's an unbelievable artist, and she gets into alchemy and archetypes, the subconscious. That's right up my alley. I love all that stuff. And in her deck, there is this concept in alchemy, and she has created a card around this and a little write up in the book about this. There's this concept of the moment before creation, and it's called in creatum. It's and it looks like nothing. It looks like lack or void or empty, nothing. And in fact, what is happening in those moments before creation, and think about, like, just before a seed cracks open, or maybe not just before, maybe 3 weeks before a seed cracks open, there is tremendous divine force, life force, innately wise force, ordering happening in those moments, those periods before the sudden burst of life before creation. And I learned this in working with this deck and reading about this and diving into this topic, that this time before creation, of course, we can feel like it's unclear, it's disorienting, we've lost our way. We hear this from our clients, right? I'm stuck, lost. I don't know where I am. I don't know who I am. But there's actually tremendous divine organizing and directionality happening here. It's deeply mystical and mysterious.
Yeah, it is. It is. In preparation for this podcast, Katie, I went through my artwork and I went through some of the things in my journal that were pertinent to the soul during times of darkness. And what you're saying is exactly right. And it's similar to human birth. I mean,
Yeah.
if we think about it, we're pregnant for 9 months and then we think nothing's ever going to happen, nothing's ever going to happen. And then suddenly we go into labor, or even if we're in a time of transition during the birth stage of transition. I remember with my first son saying to the doctor, I'm just going to go home now. I'm done. Time out. I'm done. And my husband said, You can't go home." And I
Yeah.
said, I really don't care. I think it's just time to go
Mm.
home." And the doctor said, "That's actually really good, Hannah, because it means that you are so close to having this baby. Let's just hang in there." And he broke it down into increments. I mean, minutes for me of
Mm.
just deep breathing. And sure enough, Christopher was born. But
Wow.
but I couldn't see it, I couldn't feel it, I really didn't feel like pushing, I just
Mm.
wanted to go home to what was familiar. And I think
Right?
we can all relate when we're in the darkness, it's like,
Yes.
oh no, had enough of this."
Yeah.
But the examples that I lifted up from my artwork were seeds,
Mm.
snakes
Mm.
who incubate in their
Mm.
skins, and then their eyes turn blue
Mm.
before they shed the skin, and they are literally blind.
Oh,
They are
wow.
literally blinded in this process of shedding the skin. I did a
Mm.
lot of snakes for a while. Caves
Mm.
and tombs and wombs. So
Yeah.
these places and these forces that are divinely organized, but they have to pull in and rest or shift during a time of transition in
Mm.
order to move into a new place.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you find in your art that as you're moving through a period of difficulty or transition or blindness, so to speak, are there are there messages, images, impulses that come up and through your art that are really specifically an answer to the time?
Yes and no. I
Mm.
mean, not initially, not
Mm.
initially. Uh, but when I start, it's generally very, very dark. You know, I'm moving through darkness and blackness. I let myself find representation of where I feel I am. And
Mhm.
what I call it is moving through the swampland.
Mm.
I feel like I'm just in a swamp and I can't move quickly. Things are sucking me down. It's dark. I feel lost. There are no trailheads. There's no companion. But I
Mm.
don't I don't lead with an expectation of having anything resolved quickly. I've
Yeah.
learned that that usually is not the case, that it's a process I need to honor. And you just let it unfold. You kind of honor the timing
Mhm.
of what's happening. And interestingly enough, I will paint a painting and it will sit for 2 years. And then I go back to it and I know something different because my soul has has been in the dark. And I
Yes.
I know and I see something different. And so I respond at the canvas again and it morphs. It's like it shape shifts into something else completely, completely.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I love about the way art is you and accompanies you through your life, and I paint, but I don't consider myself a painter the way you are. But what I love about your process is that your art is like this steadfast companion.
Mhm.
And I
It
think for
is.
some of us, there's music or writing or
Yep.
nature, or sometimes that companion is another human being, a coach or a spiritual practice. And there's this idea that as we go into this place of transformation, I think as humans, part of what causes our suffering is that we don't know what's happening. I see that a lot with people.
Mhm.
It's like the disorientation of what's happening and what most of us go to is I'm stuck, I'm lost.
I'll never get out. I'll never get out of this. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. And one of the things I often will say to people is like, one of the greatest gifts I can give you as a witness is to like geolocate you. And
Mm.
I've seen this
Mhm.
anecdotally over the years that often when I say to people, I know where you are. And that doesn't make me special. It just makes me a practitioner. This is what I do. But I know where you are. You're in the in between. The relief that comes over people, and that's not even us getting to the content or the processing or the grieving or whatever emotional content is coming up or in process, the geolocating, you're not lost, you're not forsaken, you're not wayward. There's actually deep meaning in this in between, provides someone really fantastic and powerful relief. And then I see them able to move from that sort of frozen disorientation into, okay, what am I doing here? And a lot of
Mhm.
times what you're doing there is like metabolizing what's going on. You're,
Yeah.
emotionally, spiritually, et cetera. Like you're just sort of metabolizing it.
Mhm. Yep. It's that liminal space.
Yeah.
It's the in-between space, and if we begin to think about who we are as human beings and the fact that we are living literally between worlds
Mhm.
all the time, And
Mhm.
so why wouldn't we feel disoriented, especially if there's a time of darkness or ambiguity or confusion, and to meet somebody like you who can just geolocate and say, "Oh, I know that space." And you might feel this, or this is what it's like. It's very, very disorienting for people. I
Mhm.
think more and more we need to be present one to another when somebody lands in a liminal space because it is really strange to be
It
there.
is. I find what's orienting is if one can be in acceptance of the place and the space and the transformation that's occurring, even if it's microscopic and difficult to discern, quantify, as you said. And then whether that's like working with another human being or creating art or creating music, leaning into the connection around that, I think that is key in getting through times like this.
Yes, yes, I do too. I do too. And it doesn't take much. People think, "Oh, well, I've got to have everything set up in order to be able to do that." Or I have to have been a writer to journal, or I have to have a studio to paint or whatever. And that really is not true. You just need the materials that are at hand for
Yes.
yourself. And I'll give you a wonderful example. I had two girlfriends. We're always in and out of liminal time and
Mhm.
space, and they're in New Hampshire and I'm in Virginia, so all we can do is Zoom together.
Mm.
And we had a time together over the weekend where we decided each of us would have 7 minutes just to randomly talk
Oh.
with no agenda, and the other two would listen very carefully and maybe even take notes. And
Mhm.
then what we would do at the end of 7 minutes is give 3 minutes of honest and open questions. Katie, it was like 10 minutes of time. It was amazing because each of us, we landed in this creative process of receiving a random story or, just reflections for 7 minutes, and then we crafted some questions and gave them back to that person, and they began to see clearly exactly what they were talking about.
Oh, how interesting.
Right, right. Or
Mhm.
they took away a metaphor to live with,
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
metaphor to live with. And you can do this with a friend. You can do this with a friend. It was deeply, deeply nourishing.
Hi there. Thanks so much for being with me this week on the podcast. So, it is winter solstice time. And in honor of this conversation with Hannah, and in honor of the upcoming winter solstice, if you're listening to this in a timely way, solstice is this Sunday, December 21st. If you're listening to it another time, that's just fine too. But I've created a ceremony and guided meditation for you to honor and be part of and experience and step into the energy of the winter solstice. This is a time of quiet, of going inward, of, I hope, accepting that there is rest and slow down. And so I invite you to join me over at the Intrepid Soul Collective to experience the winter solstice ceremony and guided meditation. Hmm. I love that. And that is also geolocating,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah, yeah.
when you're being witnessed and heard and someone is reflecting back to you, there's such powerful value in that because it tells you helps to locate where you are. I think also art does that. And I know for me that when I'm really struggling, it's when my psychicness is most potent.
Mm,
Now, it's
mm.
most potent if I'm not angsting over the sort of, uh, pre-creation womb-ness of it.
Yeah,
Like, if I'm
yeah,
angsting over it, then I do get a little bit stuck. But
yeah.
if I can be in a place where I say, "Oh my gosh, I'm in transformation. I cannot go back. I cannot go back. I cannot be what I was. I am not yet clear about what I'm becoming. and I don't
Mhm.
know when this will end, and that's excruciating. Okay, I accept. Then that usually drops me into my personal space of psychic potency.
Mhm.
And that is where a lot of my best ideas come from, a lot of my best writing and inspiration comes from. It's like, in a way, I accept that my humanness doesn't make sense right now, and so the only thing I can do is go be next to what's mystical in me.
That's beautiful.
Mhm.
It's and I'm going to throw a phrase in there that
Yeah.
you may or may not agree with, but it sounds to me like it's a place of discernment.
Hmm. Yes.
Like
Yeah.
there's something, even though you might not understand exactly what's going on, there are elements of discernment or clarity that begin to come to you when you lean into it.
That's right. Yes, and I do love the word discernment. For me, when you say that, discernment lives in my stomach, in my gut. It's not a decision, it's not an intellectual identifying. It's a knowing, and it's, a clarifying, and I think that you're right, that, when we can be in acceptance about something feeling disordered or not making sense, or in between falling apart and reconstituting, there's some kind of it's power that we come into when we can accept that this is a very normal human experience, that there is suffering here, and then there's this other spot that we drop into where we have access to a skill set that belongs to an invisible part of us.
Yeah. Yeah. That's soul work.
Yes, it is.
That's soul
Yeah.
work. So may I show a little piece of art?
Please do.
Okay.
Please
Okay.
do.
So this piece, um, this is really a wild piece.
Mm,
I did this years ago, but alls I did was I kept, photographs. This is a window from France that I
mm,
took a photograph of. I just loved just kind of painting. It's not, this is not it's not a work of art. That's not the purpose of it.
mhm,
It is a soul piece just to say, here I am. This is a snapshot in time where I'm
mhm,
trying to figure out where I am and exactly what's going on. And what drew me most of all was the window. Like, am I looking out? Am I looking in? Whose house is this? What's going on in this house? So it was a time of some muddiness. Again, it was a sort of a swamp in my life. But
right.
if you just take a few little pieces and you begin to play with them, it leads you to a point of curiosity and helps you drop down differently.
Yes. Oh, I love that. So for people wanting to see Hannah's art, you can watch this podcast video on YouTube, or I would love it if you watched this podcast video at the Intrepid Soul Collective on Patreon, which is my community, but that's where you can see the video and you can see all of Hannah's art. So here's what that reminded me of. There is this book, and I think it's you turn to art in times that are difficult. I turn to words.
Uh-huh.
And and this was, gosh, in the last couple of years. And just being real honest, Hannah and I had met, I don't know, and we knew each other for a couple of years. And then I was moving through a divorce and COVID, and a divorce that would prompt me to do the work of my life, rooting out major, major old patterns and traumas and junk. And Hannah was the person that worked with me through that. And I think I spent about 2 to 3 years in your office. Um,
In the studio.
right. Sometimes on the floor of your office, there was a distinct moment of laying on the floor crying. And so I just want to say that and be vulnerable and open about that, because it was in this period of time, and I view myself as on the other side of that now, but it was in this period of time that I discovered this book. It's called Bittersweet, Susan Cain, and her work is exquisite. And I was really in this process of transformation. I knew that my life was proving it out. I was very in between. A lot wasn't settled. I was really aware that I was the caterpillar who crawled in the cocoon and was like dissolving into mush. and definitely not anywhere close to becoming the butterfly. And so I found this book, and I can't recommend it enough. So in it, essentially what she talks about is this quality of being a bittersweet person. And
Mhm.
it's a person who lives with a longing. And she talks about in the book how this longing is not the same thing as sadness. Although people who are bittersweet, and I am one of them, can often be regarded as carrying a sadness or a depression with them. But she talks about this idea that as a bittersweet person, I'll put it
Mm.
in my terms, I'm always longing for beauty, for wholeness, for essentially divine, for what I know, what my heart and my soul, my body, my being knows is more. And in this reading, at one point, she talks about this distinction from between like a Buddhist philosophy, which is all about the present moment, and then the Sufi philosophy, which is that we are striving toward love. I identified so much with that. There's such value in the present moment and studying that school of thought and exploring that. That always challenged me, honestly. And when I learned about the Sufi perspective that we are longing and we are desirous of love as a force in the universe, it really resonated with me. And this book helped me in a really profound, like 3-year long transformation in my life where I was looking to understand who I was
Mhm.
and having these ideas and concepts brought to me, and me having that real identity and knowing I'm a bittersweet person. And it's not because I'm sad or I'm jaded or I'm negative. It's because I deeply long, and there is grief and sadness here too. I deeply long for more wholeness, for more love, for more connection. And I'll tell you it. Here's why I feel like this was divine handing me this, or my guides intervening and getting me this book, was that I had always assumed that I couldn't be happy. I'd always assumed that I didn't feel joy the way other people felt it. And I'd always made that bad. Why can't you just be happy with this, Katie? And it wasn't so much like I didn't love and appreciate what I had. It's just like I couldn't fully feel all of it. And I always made myself bad. I always thought something was wrong with me, or and I was ungrateful or a brat. And this book, this body of work helped me identify that this deep longing I have is really natural and normal. And it's not it the longing doesn't make me ungrateful for the beauty and love and wholeness that's present, but it will always orient me toward the more. There is more beauty, there is more love, there is more wholeness, and I'm a vessel for that. And so during this transformation time, when this book was given to me, I really regarded it as another piece of the map of my life. And I integrated that. I've accepted and loved that about myself. I really claim I am a bittersweet person. And here's what that means about me. I think these times can be so potently clarifying. They can help us identify our true north.
Yes, absolutely. And Susan Cain also wrote extensively about introversion, right? In the book Quiet. So she's laid out two important premises for people to become familiar with and to be able to accept oneself.
Yes.
But here's what I'm wondering, Katie, because you now self-identify as a bittersweet person, which I love, by the way. I'm in that category too. How does that position you differently than other people when it comes to liminal space or dark times where the soul is transformed? What do you think about that?
Here's what it's done for me. I don't get as hung up on assuming that I'm bad or something's fundamentally wrong with me. And I know that that's really normal and human, and I don't know that we ever cross that finish line in our lives. I think we're always gonna bump into that. Usually when I'm in transformation, in liminal space, in the soil or the womb of before creation, I'm less likely to blame myself. I'm less likely to assume that something's wrong with me. I'm also more likely to know that grief for me is a big part of that. that there is a grief and a sadness I live with, frankly, about the way humans need to suffer. And some of that is day in and day out with clients, day in and day out with this work. I am next to humans who are suffering. Even if I wasn't, I need to accept that suffering is central to human living. And as I have accepted that and understood that that prompts me to grieve and at times be incredibly angry, injustice infuriates me. It has allowed me to accept that about myself and then move into the space of creation. So how do I become it? How do I become what I long for? How am I more loving and more just? That has been way showing for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that your desire for greater beauty in your life has been a part of that journey
Mhm.
as well.
Yes,
Mhm. Mhm.
yes.
It's love, it's justice,
Mhm,
it's freedom,
mhm,
and it's beauty
mhm.
that flows into it, that is an acceptable desire and
Yes,
longing. Mhm.
that's right. And I think that's the first thing. I hear this a lot from clients who feel, like, guilty because they want more beauty, and I'm not talking about a materialistic, capitalistic amassing of stuff. That is one of the things I think that we are like, our society, our system has really shamed us about. It's sort of commodified beauty, and our desire for beauty, our desire to express is in and of itself an active life force. Right? When you look at, like, activists or revolutionaries, they talk about during dark societal transitional times that the artists and the poets and the speakers and the writers show the way.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's how their souls emerge and express. Mm.
Yes. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. How has immersing yourself into the identity of artist, the truth of you as artist, how has that helped buoy you and bring you through difficult times, times of unknown?
Oh, I think it's been, an ongoing process for me to, allow myself to be immersed in that
Mm,
identity and to claim it, Katie. You know, I grew up Quaker. Art was not a part of my upbringing, nor was beauty, nor was color. I did a little book about it at one point. It was just kind of gray. You know,
mm,
my life as a little girl, I found the most color and beauty out in nature, and that's where I spent
mm,
as much time as I possibly could. So when I became an adult and moved through my phase of life as an educator and then became a mom and then went into ministry, being in the church, in the Episcopal Church, as beautiful as the sanctuaries were, it identified you as priest a certain way. And I did that full-time work for 27 years. And, early on, I knew that I could not stay alive. My spirit, my soul could not stay alive unless I tended to her through some creative process.
mm,
So I began painting with a little Crayola paint set that I bought at the drugstore. And every now
yeah,
and again, I would just pull it out and, little paint a little bit. And I thought, really, like, oh my God, I've got to keep this hidden. I don't want anybody to know that I'm,
mm,
secretly painting in my office. People might not understand that. But it grew. For a while, I had a tiny art studio in my closet. My husband insisted that it come out of the closet and find a
mm.
place in the house. So Bob helped me come out of the closet as an artist.
Wow.
And I just continually painted. And I went on one workshop with Michelle Cassou, who founded painting, process painting. She's really
Mhm,
amazing. She's from Italy. And then I just kept creating in secret all the time. I was prolific. Nobody ever saw anything, but it didn't matter because it was just part of my process of
mhm,
both staying alive and of discerning and figuring out how I was going to stay buoyant and float.
mhm. Mhm.
as I serve the needs of many, many people, and it was years, Katie. And truly, the identity of painter or artist didn't come to fruition until I retired from full-time ministry.
Wow. Why do you think that is?
I don't think there was space or room for me
Mhm.
to handle that identity. Because
Mm.
if I said yes to it,
Yep.
then I knew it would mean no um, to ministry, and I just could not literally afford to do that at that time. Live I had to live parallel lives and bring them along together. But
Right.
I did more creative things within the parish, like I would do painting sermons instead of just
Mm.
preaching. I would bring out an easel and I would paint and talk about a story and engage congregations in very, very creative ways. So the artist began to emerge. And then I
Mm.
did my doctoral work in Chicago as a priest, but I did my dissertation was on being an artist priest.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So she began to come out a little bit more.
Mhm.
But then when I retired, I felt like, okay, now I have the time and energy to afford to listen to her. So I did coaching and then figured out a way to study with somebody named Bob Burridge, who's in California. And he's really, he was the one who said, Hannah, you are a painter, you are an artist, you got to do this. So it's been in the last 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you think that these times of difficulty, of loss, of profound transition, were they always bringing you to your true identity as artist? Or
Yep.
is that too singular? Okay.
No, they always did. They always did. They always would kind of, because I could feel the energy, and that's what I paid attention to. And so what I would say to my soul, remember last time I talked about it as being kind of a shy, wild animal, I would
Yes.
say, "I know you're there, and just hang on a little while longer, and soon I'm gonna open the gate. It's
Mm.
okay. I'm
Mhm.
paying attention to you, and I'm doing what I can in a small way, but soon we'll have greater freedom."
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, the soul was there.
Yeah, right, it doesn't go anywhere. And
It
it's
didn't.
patient.
Yeah,
It's patient while we build that capacity. I
yeah.
think that there's so much pressure. I don't know, especially now with, like, spiritual social media, and just I don't know, these, like, quips and quotes and ideas, and I'm guilty of it sometimes too, but this pressure to know who you are, to unabashedly declare and go be, and and I think that there's real value in going through these narrow canals of life where not everything can come with you, or you can't be the full breadth of who you are. And then
Mm.
I think there's value in when you can be that, knowing that for you, you must claim it. And there's a responsibility to the universe, to source, to
Mhm,
creative energy, to God to claim
mhm,
it
mhm.
and
It's
become it.
true. It's true.
Mhm.
We live in a quick fix culture,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
everybody thinks that this can happen quickly, and I attest to the opposite. It's a long, slow obedience in the same direction. That's the name of a book, that I love, the long, slow obedience in the same direction. So if we're following what I call the golden thread or the soul's path, it's a long, slow obedience throughout our lifetimes, and as we follow it, it becomes
Mm.
more clear,
Mhm.
and I believe that the energy becomes more powerful
Yes.
because we drop other things fall away, so that when we finally can exercise that deep soul connection with the world and the universe, we are clear.
Mhm.
There is no question, we are absolutely clear, Katie.
Yes. Yes. There's something I wanna read. Hi there. Just wanted to tell you about the upcoming sovereignty ceremony. This year will be the fourth annual. We started this back in 2021 as a way to honor the end of the calendar year without getting into heavy New Year's resolutions and goal setting and new beginnings. Because the truth is that in the middle of winter, the end of December, the start of January, this is not actually our natural New Year. Our natural New Year happens in the springtime. And so the sovereignty ceremony is a way to work with nature. It's a way to acknowledge that the year, the calendar year, is coming to a close. And we call back our energy. We call back what belongs to us. We release what doesn't belong to us, what is no longer helpful or useful or in our highest and best honor. We do a psychic and energetic cleanup of our bodies, our being, our energy field. It's a lovely way to go inward, to take good care of your psychic and energetic space in honor of the end of the calendar year, all of the busyness and all of the interactions, all of the stuff that's going on that may be cluttering up your space. It's a really lovely, gentle, intentioned clean out and clean up. It's a sacred ceremony, and I do hope that you will join me. This year, it's on Sunday, December 28th, 2025 at 11 a.m. over at the Intrepid Soul Collective on Patreon. This is from my book. So I have two dedications in my book. The first is to my boys, my sons. And the next is this one, to the magical women who came before me. To those who did not have the opportunities I have, who could not make the choices I am able to make, who dimmed their lights and made themselves smaller to survive physically, emotionally, and spiritually, I honor you and thank you. The sacrifices you made to stay safe and the burdens you bore in the name of generational womanly duty have not been forgotten. I hope that I, along with this book, contribute to the ending of a cycle of smallness suffered by women who were and are meant to be sweeping, magical, vibrant forces of creation and healing. I hope that I, in all of my freedom and safety in this lifetime, honor the freedom and safety you did not have. I hope that in living in my truth and in my vibrant magic, I may offer your legacies a home.
Ooh, ooh, Katie.
Yeah, I share that at this moment because I see that in this story you're telling about.
Yes.
There's a wisdom. I mean, I know when I wrote that, there was a wisdom I had at that time. I guess now I was about 40 years old when I wrote that. And it was, there was enough time. I I wasn't young. I had perspective and discernment and gratitude, and I had answered the call of my own soul, and it had come at great cost,
Yes, it did.
and but also there were great gifts.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah. Wow. Ooh, kinda takes my breath away, friend.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Just, like, thinking about how unsafe women were. Can we just say that for a minute? Um, and and just how unsafe women were to be the vessels of creation that we are. We just
Yes,
are.
yes, yes, yes. Yeah, I don't have to go back many generations in my own family history to see that.
And I think there is a duty that we have when we are clear and when we are safe, when there is space in our lives, the way you stepped into artist, the way I have bit by bit stepped into mystic. It's like every time I'm a little bit safer or a little bit more stable or a little bit more clear or a little bit more brave, I claim a piece of my identity as a mystic. Is there another piece of art you want to share with us?
I'm working on one. I have no idea what this is. So this is
Mhm.
collage and acrylic, and
Yeah.
this was done when I was at Bob Burridge's, studio in California, and I just continue to love it and to live with it, and
Mm.
I'm, not clear where it will land. But this is what I do. This is, I spend time kind of turning things in different directions until
Mhm.
something speaks to me or I get an idea.
What I notice about your art, and I admire this in people like you. I know people who write music and write songs. In art and creativity, I think it teaches us a really sacred patience. And I appreciate that about artist types because there there is something that you can't push or rush in order to get to the final piece or composition.
True. If you do damage. That's what I've learned. That's what
Mm,
I've learned.
mm,
If you push, you do damage to your creative soul, to your muse, to your soul. So I've really spent time honoring the quiet times, the liminal times, the time when there's no product. I don't panic with that. It's sort of like, okay, let's just wait and see what happens.
mhm,
What's
mhm,
emerging here? Because I've learned enough, Katie. If I push too
mm,
hard, there's damage.
right. And I think I wanna say, I think that goes for this process of transformation that we're talking about, that
Absolutely.
that we're advising you that if you're in a process of profound transformation and it looks like you're lost or stuck or upside down or disconnected from who you are, that pushing resolution will be damaging, will take you farther away from where you're truly meant to go. But seeking a trusted witness, trusted conversation, seeking art, seeking creation, following the nudges and intuitive hits that come. What do you want to do? What are you longing for? Yes.
I also want to throw in here, Katie, the importance of nature for people who are feeling lost. Back in Concord, there was a beech tree that befriended me, or I befriended it. I'm not sure which, but it was over in a local park. And I noticed that I was drawn to it, and I would stand by the trunk and I would just touch this tree for some reason. And I realized it had been struck by lightning at some
Oh,
point, and it had this huge scar that went all the way up the trunk,
wow.
and I thought, "Oh my gosh, beech tree understands woundedness."
Mm.
And so, no wonder that I just wanted to touch Wounded Beach, and I named her Wounded Beach, and I would go there anytime I felt as if there was a trauma or a sadness or something confounding, just to be with her because she became a trusted companion. And nature can provide that for us.
That's
Nature
right.
has so much wisdom. Mother Earth just
Mhm.
brings enormous wisdom to us. So I want to tuck that in there as another tool for
Mm.
people if they feel lost, or to find a trail that you love and to walk it all the
Yes,
time. Give
yes,
yourself a literal path
yes.
when you don't have a path internally. Yeah.
That's right. I have a client, the same one I referenced earlier, and she'll probably listen to this, and I think she won't mind that I share this. She's been walking this path. She's been in literally this space that we're talking about for an excruciatingly long period of time. And she's been walking this trail that's near to her house. And recently, her guides in one of our sessions advised her to plant some bulbs. And there was a moment in the conversation where we got a little hung up on like, well, where do we plant and how many? And well, I don't want to plant them there and I should plant them there. And she came in today and she said, so I took a walk and I planted a few in this place. And then I planted a few in that place. And then I planted a few here. And then she planted some by her home. And it was this really, so she's still in this process of great transformation, but she added life force to different spaces and continues to allow this interaction with the forest, with this trail, with the trees, with nature, with the animals, with the fairies. And I think that this is what, if we are available to it and open to it, difficult times will teach us about the mystical world in the most practical, direct, and physical way. And when we lean into it and create the conversation and answer back and respond and show up, that conversation and relationship continues. And I think that these times of transition are meant, frankly, to strip us down so that we more clearly accept that we are mystical and mysterious and of the spirit, and develop more practice and identity and familiarity around and with it.
I agree. I agree.
This has been so lovely. Is there anything you wanna add? Or I mean, we could talk and talk. I can think of 7 more things I wanna add, but we can't. So is there anything that you want to say?
Well, I was reflecting on saints and wise masters, spiritual masters, before this conversation, and all of them experienced times of darkness or suffering. And I think especially of Saint Ignatius, with whom I'm quite familiar, and during a time of living literally in the caves of Montserrat in the late 1400s, he took that opportunity of being in the darkness to begin to discern the difference between consolation and desolation. And consolation would be decisions or activities that would very easily move him into a place of feeling joy and hope. And desolation would be the opposite, would take him away and throw him into despair. And he realized that there were energies either, of consolation or of desolation. But he made an important distinction that I just want to raise up for the listeners. Within consolation, there's easy consolation and there's hard consolation. So
Mhm.
easy consolation is when, you're with a friend or a baby is born, there's easy joy. But hard consolation is when you make a conscious decision to follow a path of love and it
Mm.
takes you into darkness and it challenges you. But it is still a movement toward love, Katie.
Mm.
So if you make a conscious decision, for example, to take care of a parent, a loved one through a critical illness, and it challenges you on every level, you have still made a choice for consolation, but it's hard because it's a movement toward love. So just to lift that up, and if hard consolation becomes too hard, it shifts over into desolation. So you have to watch. If your soul's energy begins to leave you, then you're into desolation. But as long as you're in consolation, your soul is vibrant.
Wow. Wow.
Hmm.
And so what's deeply consoling is moving toward love, even if it's hard.
Hmm. Hmm. That's right. I mean, think of raising children,
Mhm.
right? Right? I mean, we don't
Right.
have to go far to try this on.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But it's a conscious choice to love.
I'm reminded in this moment of another person that I'm working with right now, and she's come out of some death and some transition, and she's at a point in her life where she's really able to take up her own healing work and identity work. And she's wonderful. I really love her. She shows up and fastidiously listens and takes notes, and then is also really scared. And what she's scared about is that this process of healing and becoming more conscious and changing who she is going to mean that her family misunderstands her and
Yeah.
or rejects her or doesn't love her at worst. And I have comforted her as much as possible, because no amount of words from an outside person will soothe this. And it is something that she must live with during this transformation. She has to live with the paradox that in choosing myself and my own healing and my consciousness, I run the risk that the people I love won't recognize me or will reject me because I will have created some healthier habits and they benefit from the less healthy ones. And the paradox of this is right and true and loving for me, and yet I'm really scared and desperately afraid that I could lose. And so she and I have been walking through this, and one of the things I just love about her is that she names this. She listens and she shows up and we talk and she cries and she takes notes and then she's like, "My God, I'm scared." And I I always honor her and say that you say this out loud, that you write it, process it, cry about it, speak it is so powerful because it's calling in the higher self of those you love. It's calling in the higher guides, spirits who lead those you love. It's invoking some bigger organizing force. And it's saying, choosing to love myself more completely is the right thing, is the hard consolation,
It is.
and it's powering her through this fear. I don't think she will lose her family. As far as I can tell and see, I don't think so. But it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. What matters is that she has to live with the possibility that she could be deeply misunderstood, and that will test the way ultimately she understands herself and hopefully a new commitment to not abandoning herself.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
It's a great example. Great
Mm,
example.
mhm.
Yeah. Becoming self-differentiated is, costly work.
It really is.
Right?
Yes. And I think a point that we made today that wasn't planned, but there is something about age. There is something about having
Sure.
gone through multiple transition points over time. It develops your stamina, your discernment, your willingness. It it cultivates a natural courage and bravery where as you're moving through times that are transforming you, you get braver about what you're willing to lose so that you can be congruent with who you truly are.
Yeah, that's true.
Mhm.
That's true. I have found that, Katie.
Hannah, thank you.
You're welcome. Always.
Mhm. Mhm.
Always. Yeah.
Let's do more. Let's do more
Okay.
talk.
Keep it going. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. And thanks everybody for
Mhm.
listening. We will see you again soon. Thank you for joining me here on the Intrepid Soul podcast. If you'd like to continue the conversation and the work of your soul, join me over on Patreon at the Intrepid Soul Collective. There you'll find tons of resources and support connected to the conversations we have here to help you make your soul work practical and embodied. There are live sessions with me, bonus Q&As where you can go deeper with me and my guests, companion guided meditations and ceremonies, and so much more. Because we can't just talk about it, we've got to become it. Check out the show notes for details and links, and hit follow on this podcast. It'll keep new episodes at the top of your feed, and it helps me build the Intrepid Soul community. Until next time, take good care of yourself and your soul.